Now, the United States' President Trump says that his country has launched a series of airstrikes against ISIS militants who've been killing Christians in Nigeria.
It follows the US president previously warning that Christianity faces an existential threat in Nigeria and threatened military intervention.
Well, let's also bring you more on that breaking news now that Donald Trump is set to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Sunday.
The Ukrainian leader has now confirmed those reports just moments ago.
Yes, President Zelensky says his 20-point peace plan is now 90% ready, but he'll raise concerns about what he calls a lack of compromise.
He also says security guarantees deal is almost ready.
But Zelensky has cautioned he cannot yet say whether Sunday's meeting with Trump will result in any signed and sealed and delivered agreements being signed.
Well, joining us in the studio again is our panel of journalist and broadcaster Anna May Mangan. Thank you for joining us on Boxing Day. And councillor David Moore. David, I'll ask you first. Do you think there will be a breakthrough on Sunday? Zelensky and Trump, obviously, we had that catastrophic meeting earlier in the year. Zelensky has learned how to deal with Donald Trump. But do you think we're going to see progress?
When I saw that scene, Catherine, in the Vatican of Trump and Zelensky, there is definitely goodwill, and I hope that goodwill can continue. The issue is that Europe needs to pay its fair share of defence. It cannot just rely on America to protect Ukraine. And Trump has made it very clear that this is the new policy of the United States, is a more isolationist approach, and it wants to roll back its intervention. However, we must work the Americans to find a peace plan. What Russia is doing in Ukraine, for so many years, the relentless killing, we need to support Ukraine, and I hope that Trump and Zelensky can find some common ground.
Anna May, isn't the embarrassing truth of all of this is that the only reason why the White House is quite so important in finding a peace, if a peace is to be found, is that America is such a rich and well-defended country that the Ukrainians are entirely reliant on American support because Europe has neither the weapons nor the money to provide the same.
I think Trump said earlier, didn't he, he's got no cards, Zelensky's got no cards to play, but they're making hopefully good progress now, and how sensational it would be if they could reach a peace agreement for the new year. I mean, that's all that I would want. And it's complicated. You're dealing with a bully. So how do you negotiate with somebody who's not giving ground? So, it's really, really hard, but the killing has to stop.
It's so difficult in some ways because there has been so much loss of life on both sides. In some ways, that makes it harder to reach a peace because people will then say it's a bit like in the First World War. There was that Christmas truce in 1914, but then the fighting started again because people had already lost tens of thousands of their colleagues. And the question is, did they die for nothing? Are we just going to end here, freeze the lines? In many ways, people want to reclaim their country.
That's the horror of war, isn't it, in the end? And Putin, he doesn't care about his image, does he? I mean, a lot of other people in the negotiations do. I mean, we could say, why is Trump doing it? Could it be for awards, peace prize, so on. But I think Putin's a maniac, and it's impossible to deal with him. And the fact that they're making some inroads makes me happy, and I hope it goes somewhere positive.
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their massive Christmas deal. Right now, you can get up to 80% off ExpressVPN. Every time you jump online to grab a last-minute gift, there's someone out there trying to grab your card details and passwords. ExpressVPN puts an encrypted shield between you and the cybercriminals, so you can protect your privacy, money, and identity. But hurry, this deal ends on the 26th of December, so scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
And I think there's an open question as well over whether Putin really wants peace, because, of course, one of their key demands, they want the eastern part of the Donetsk that hasn't been taken. They haven't been able to take that in 3.5 years. They are expecting Ukraine to give up territory, including those critical fortress cities that they really, really need strategically. If that is given to Russia, makes it so much easier for Russia to come back. This 20-point plan that Zelensky's putting forward sounds like they would agree, Ukraine would agree to pull troops from that region, but they would expect Russia to pull troops also back from a stretch they already occupy. Do you think that's tenable. Is this going to work? Can you really see a way through this?
Well, it could end up like a Korea-style situation where we have this DMZ. But I think it's important to note, Catherine, that Putin's main aim was regime change. This was back in February 2022 when they launched the invasion. The Russian losses were catastrophic. They tried to take Kyiv. They failed. It's said that Russia has lost 500,000 men on the battlefield. This is a country that's demographically collapsing. Ukraine, and the great news is Ukraine is managed to defend its sovereignty, or at least its regime and the government. But the key is now making sure that Russia does not continue to make gains in the holdouts that Ukraine is holding just outside the Donetsk region and of course down by the Dnieper River as well.
Now, of course, Ukraine has sort of eclipsed almost all other issues in terms of global security. But we're having a bit of déjà vu with ISIS rearing its head again now. I mean, I think most of the world had sort of thought that this was a problem that had been solved, that had been done away with in sort of 2016, 17. We don't hear about ISIS kidnapping so much anymore. We don't hear about territory that they control, but clearly a big problem in Nigeria.
Yeah, I mean, I hear Trump has given the world a massive Christmas gift, hasn't he? I mean, by taking them out and with the cooperation of Nigeria. But the worst thing is nobody's been listening to these countries that are being attacked by ISIS. I mean, they are definitely... they're not all ISIS, but they definitely all work to Islamist goals. And the killings are shocking. And they've been unprotected for all this time. So he's done an amazing thing. I mean, I know he's not perfect in any way, but in this, he's so right to have gone in and dealt with some of it, and I hope it continues.
And just finally, David, Donald Trump said he didn't want to get involved with foreign wars. How do you think this will play with his base? Do you think they'll be supportive of this? And, of course, the huge amount of time that he has had to spend dealing with situation in the Middle East and dealing with Ukraine.
I think Trump is also a realist, and he's realised that the plight of the Nigerian Christians has been gone on for years and no one has cared. It's not considered a fashionable geopolitical conflict like Palestine and Israel. Over 50,000 Nigerian Christians have been killed since 2009 in the north. At least it's said to be further than that. In fact, I was talking to my local Nigerian church about this, and the stories are harrowing. Islamists going into churches, gunning down worshippers, men, women and children. And for too long, the mainstream media and governments have ignored the plight of Nigeria because it wasn't fashionable, it wasn't Palestine and Israel. And I'm actually really glad that Trump has seen that he's going to put an end to the mass Christian murder that's going on in North Nigeria, because Christian persecution often gets pulled into the wayside, and we always hear about the usual topics like, again, Palestine and Israel, but what we're seeing in Nigeria is horrific, and I'm glad Trump is taking action with airstrikes.
Yeah, can I just say Biden put down the conflict to intercommunal problems. He actually didn't think it was to do with ISIS versus Christians, or he didn't define it in that way. And also, the good old BBC said that the numbers of Christians who have been killed has been overestimated.
Right.
Yeah, so
well,
no surprise there.
If there's one time of year to focus our eyes on these conflicts that don't get enough airtime throughout the rest of the year, I mean, now really is that time. But thank you indeed, Anna May and David, for talking through those two important issues. But moving on now.